Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Combo Breaker 99. I'm back for another video. All right, y'all. As y'all know, it's fight week. It's going down. UFC 268. Rose Namajunas is about to run it back with Zhang Weili in a rematch to their fight back in April, in which Zhang Weili, she was stopped in the very first round against Rose Namajunas via head kick. And after that, outcome, a lot of people were on the fence about Zhang Weili, whether she should take some time off, take some other fights, and kind of go from there. And in the midst, in the meantime, Carla Esparza, she's been on the rise. She won her last fight via second round stoppage over Zhang, which everybody felt that secured her a title shot, right? Which of course it didn't. So Rose Namajunas about to run it back with Zhang Weili, and I think a lot of people, they wanted to see Carla get that shot again because for the fact that past 7 years, she's been working hard, making some improvements. She's on a 5-fight win streak now, and they wanted to see Rose Namajunas. A lot of Rose fans, they wanted to see that get back with Carla Esparza. They wanted to see how far Rose has come since that fight 7 years ago, against Carla Esparza, and a lot of people thought that it would be 50-50. Some people think Rose has enough now to beat Carla. But in this video, I just want to talk about some other things people brought up here to me. They commented a while back, and I wanted to do this video before the fight this weekend. Some people were telling me that after I said Carla deserves the rematch, some people were telling me that don't matter because she was gonna get smoked by Rose, or like she doesn't have the same, she doesn't have the same tools she did 7 years ago, Rose, and make the adjustments, or they would just flat out say that Zhang Weili posed more of a threat because she's a better fighter than Carla Esparza. And I thought about that. I was like, is Zhang Weili more of a threat than Carla Esparza in a rematch? Which rematch really is, which rematch is really going to be tough for Rose? This one or a Carla Esparza fight? Now, if y'all remember, like I said, Carla Esparza, she captured the title via third round submission over Rose Namajunas back in 2014. There was some competitive moments in the first round or so, but then Rose kind of lost steam, and Carla Esparza, she came on strong, and she just started to dominate, put her strength on Rose Namajunas and used her wrestling until eventually she wore it down, right? Whereas Zhang Weili, she was stopped by Rose in little over a minute in their fight, losing the title. Now that the rematch with Zhang Weili signed and ready to go, again, like I said, I've been hearing a lot more people saying it's a good thing because she's going to give her a tougher fight than Carla. And I don't think that's true. I really don't think that's true. I mean, I do think that both fighters bring a 50-50 element. Like, I think that Zhang Weili is still 50-50, maybe a little bit in favor of Rose. Maybe it's teetering a little bit. But because for the fact that Rose, she has made some improvements with Carla in the past 7 years. I do think that she has kind of scaled it out with Carla as well. She definitely has kind of scaled it out as well. She put herself in there with some tough fights like Joanna, Jessica Andrade over the years. So she definitely has improved. When you put her up against a style that's not good for Rose like Carla, though, it kind of, especially the way it ended, it kind of makes you think a little bit more. Whereas, like I said, with Zhang Weili, that type of timing, when I was watching it again the other night, that type of timing and respect that Zhang Weili gave her, maybe she might be stronger than Carla, but there was just those little elements like that kind of gave her, Rose, the thinking space. It kind of makes it a bit of an easier fight for her, if that makes sense. Just a little bit. That's why I say you can't really say that Zhang Weili is going to be or is a tougher fight than Carla, because Carla has been making improvements to her game as well. Like I said, like how much more improvements does Carla have to make this time around to beat this version of Rose? Whereas Rose, she had to make a lot of improvements over the past 7 years. Carla was already an established champion in another division and already was the fighter that she's more so settled into. She's more so comfortable with her style, just add more tools to her game. I know Zhang Weili, she has a lot of tools, and she has a lot of tools that can help her win this rematch, but it's her execution. It's her execution sometimes. Like I said, given a fighter like Rose thinking space, you don't do that. I think you have to be more of a moving fighter and a dog and a physical fighter like Carla was the first go round with Rose Namajunas. But I just kind of want to go back. Let's factor in what gives these fighters a chance, and then just kind of tally it up and see who would be the biggest threat. So for Carla Esparza, I just think her style is something that kind of disrupts Rose Namajunas, her rhythm. She's a wrestler. She's gritty. She can kind of push the pace. She can switch levels. Her striking and her strength has improved throughout her last few fights. And just that style, she's a very solid wrestler, and that's what she looks to do against tall, rangy fighters that don't match her in strength. The fighters that matched her in strength, she had trouble with and got dominated, like Joanna. Joanna's not a wrestler, but she's physically strong. She's strong as hell. You can't take her down. She packs power in those front kicks. If you try to grab her, she'll bounce right back up and she'll toss you around to get her space. Whereas, Tatiana Suarez, Olympic wrestler, great wrestler, but she, has that size and physical advantage on Carla Esparza, so she was able to dominate her. So physical strength, those type of strong core fighters with strong foundations, they give Carla Esparza trouble, and I don't think Rose has that type of strength about her. So this is a type of style that favors Carla, and again, like I said, her physical strength has improved throughout the past years. She's becoming a little bit more muscular, and you add the fact that, she strikes a little bit more dirty boxing. I think that style kind of disrupts the rhythm of Rose. And another thing that makes her more of a threat, I think, than Zhang Weili is the fact that she's had more rounds with Rose. She's been in there a few more rounds with Rose, even if it was 2 more rounds, 3 rounds to be exact. She was in there 3 rounds with Rose Namajunas, and even if it was an earlier version of Rose, she's got a chance to kind of get the rhythm of her style and make her own adjustments and just kind of wear her down, so she could kind of play that back in her head and say, okay, what does this more so improved Rose Namajunas have? And she doesn't have that. Her having more rounds, she doesn't have that in the back of her head, like, oh, I could get knocked out again, and I only went 1 round. Oh, snap! I gotta keep watching out for that one thing. So her mental game is gonna be stronger. Her mental game is gonna be stronger for the fact that she's been in the more rounds. Another thing, growth and momentum, it does favor her. The growth throughout the years. The more so adding the, like I said again, the striking, the different tools she's added to her game. She's been out there working her boxing. She's added those things to her game. The momentum of beating 5 top 10 fighters, that helps your confidence as well. Again, like Carla's always kind of been like a laid back fighter, which is a gift and a curse. She's kind of a laid back, quiet fighter. And she's also an established champion. Like I said, she's been there before. She's fought the best. She's faced humility multiple times. Suarez, Joanna again. And I think that's kind of helped her throughout the years to find her balance. And the number one thing, a win over Rose. She already has a win over Rose. Even if it was 7 years ago, she has that mental edge. She can always play that back. And it's going to make Rose think about that. It's going to make her think that she did do so-and-so. She was able to pull off so-and-so in the octagon. She was able to do this, hold me down for this X amount of time, so she has that mental edge. She'll always have that mental edge over Rose if Rose can't block it out. So Rose is going to have to really try to perfect her game and bring something that nullifies Carla. So those are just some of the things that Carla has. Her style, having more rounds with Rose, the growth and momentum, and the win over Rose. Come on, that's still a factor. For Weili, style again. I will say she has the style. The style of a physical, technical brawler, but she has to be able to execute. She has to be able to execute and not have that time in between to give Rose the ability to figure her out. You know what I mean? Like I said, Joanna lost to Rose because she tried to fight her game. Like Rose is more of a thinking striker, whereas Joanna, she thinks as well, but she's more of an active striker. She's a volume striker. Her work rate is high. She's always doing something. She always has something going. So That's why a lot of fighters get overwhelmed by her. But when she fought Rose, she had to fight the chess match where Rose could figure her out, time a good left hook, and get her down, right? So Weili trying to play that game, and she's shorter and longer, not really as much of an established striker like Joanna, without the reach as well. She's going to get picked apart from the outside, right? So you can't give that type of space. She has to go straight for her style, which, her style, if she breaks that ice, is very disruptive to Rose's rhythm as well. She's quick, she's athletic, she's a grinder. She was able to out wrestle Tecia Torres at times and, grind her down. And I think Ticia's very, very strong, so Weili does have a style that can make this fight very tough and could pull off the win. So same thing, grinding, the knees in the clinch, dirty boxing on the inside, a lot of good things here that Weili does bring that could be brutal for Rose if she can get going. For her as well, I'd say growth, but this growth has to be tested. Her having Henry Cejudo in her camp, I think that's going to help kind of break the culture barrier for her, the language barrier as well, and just kind of get used to the American way, the UFC meathead mentality, and kind of just get used to those type of jokes and that type of element, that she hasn't really experienced. So that type of growth is going to be good for her. She's going to come in with more of a confident mindset where, hey, she'll feel like, hey, people do kind of like her here. They do respect her, and that'll build her confidence. So that's a part of her growth that's going to be a threat. Breaking that ice, that humility is gone from the first time. She's been humbled, and she's hungry again. Heart, something that's going to pull her through this thing is heart. She wants to keep going. As long as you can't hit that sweet spot on the chin again, I think Zhang Weili stays in the fight. She showed that against Joanna. She fought 5 hard rounds with Joanna, which, a lot of fighters can't say they've done, So that's something she has going for her. And I think that, for her, the crowd and the country could be a blessing and a curse this time. Again, it's a blessing, like I said, if she understands it more with Henry Cejudo and being in Arizona, but it can be a curse if she has those flashbacks, So that's kind of that would kind of be like the deal breaker there. Can't really say that's a plus for her, but I think the style, growth, and heart are going to be some of the keys that make this a tough fight. Tough rematch for Rose. But if it all comes down to it, who do I think is a tougher rematch for Rose? I'm going to have to go with Carla. Carla Esparza. I think Carla, if she had got the rematch, she would have had a better chance at repeating history. She just has more going for her right now. I think, her momentum and her humbleness and the humility she's faced in the past has kind of balanced her out. I think she has a good chin as well, too. She doesn't really sit on the outside against these type of fighters. She's always going. Her momentum and her ability to handle styles like Rose puts her in a better mind state for this fight. Whereas Weili, I think she can still pull a 180 and do something big. I think the way her fight ended, though, with Rose, it leaves it a little bit more questionable. Now, I know Rose, again, and Carla, they fought 7 years ago, but that could still happen. Or Carla could still win by a decision, because she's been there before and she does have tools and she could have Rose's number. You never know. But the way Weili's fight ended, it makes it a little bit more questionable. I know people say it was, some people say it was a fluke, or some people say it just happened so quick that she didn't get a chance to use those strong points. But that's still a big part because the mental is a strong point, right? It's such a strong point. So it leaves it a little bit more questionable whether you like it or not. Whereas Carla never been stopped like this before. She's never been stopped like this before. And I'm just basing it off her approach to long strikers like Rose, because I'm not necessarily saying that's not a weakness of Carla, because in my opinion, Carla does have problems with long ranging fighters, but only if they're physically strong, and they're bigger than her. Like, again, Joanna and Tatiana. So for me, I'm going to go with Carla as far as who would be the tougher rematch. If this fight was happening Saturday, I think Carla would have a better chance at winning than Weili. Now, I'm not saying this, I'm not full on pick yet, but I'm just saying, like, off top and off the history, I do think that Carla Esparza does have something more so going for her. Because, like I said, it's just not a lot of pressure on her. Like, even when she was champion and she lost, I'm sure there was a lot of pressure, but it seems like, Zhang Weili just has so much pressure on her, not just from, her fans here, but from like the whole country, that, you know, she represents. There just seems like there's so much more pressure in being a superstar for her. Whereas Carla's always been kind of laid back. You know, she gets the belt, boom, you know, she's the champion. She's the strawweight champion. And if she gets the title shot, same thing. You know, she just kind of flies under the radar, which again is a gift and a curse. And it's the curse because she's not getting it, right? It's the curse. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that, guys. Let me know in the comment section what y'all think. Who do you think is the tougher rematch? Like I said, I just want to knock this thing out before fight week. Like, I was just thinking about it today, and I said, who would be the toughest rematch? Like, if it was going down, like, you know, if it was Carla, I say, you know, I think Carla could do it. You know, I think Carla would be the tougher fight for Rose than Zhang Weili at this point. Not saying Zhang ain't tough, but I'm just saying based off of what we've seen in those different elements like growth, improvement, style, and already facing humility and just having a more experience with Rose's style, you know. So I think Rose, guys, I think Rose and Carla would be a tougher rematch than Zhang and Rose, though. That's just me. Let me know, guys, in the comment section what y'all think. Combo Breaker 99. I'm out. Subscribe. Peace.